It's Christmas Day 2004. The visiting Miami Heat lead the LA Lakers by 2 points with just a few seconds left in overtime. Kobe Bryant has the ball and a final chance to win this thing. I'm not gonna lie to you, in terms of its actual effect on history, this moment doesn't really matter. But that's not what Christmas Day NBA games are about. Christmas games are about drama. To understand the narrative and emotions at play here, we need to understand the history behind people on this floor, as well as some people off of it. Before Kobe attempts to claim this moment as his own, let's rewind. It's Christmas, so you know this matchup is special. NBA on Christmas is a tradition that dates back to December 25th, 1947, the league's second season, when the Knicks beat the Providence Steamrollers. This is when like half the Knicks were Jews, so they were probably fine with it. The NBA has done Christmas ever since, and the league leans into it by making sure the games transmit nationally resonant storylines. It's a day to pit rival teams against one another, to stage dramatic individual matchups. That got kinda awkward earlier today. The first game on the Christmas slate was Pistons-Pacers, a matchup of last season's champion and the bitter rival they upset in the Eastern Conference Finals. It was also a rematch of this, for which a couple players are still suspended. That rivalry might be a bit too bitter. But yeah, the league put Heat Lakers on Christmas for a reason, and it's clearly not because the Heat and Lakers are longtime rivals. It's because this was the first ever matchup between Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq's return to Los Angeles after 8 eventful years as Kobe's teammate. By the end of the 03-04 season, the Lakers were volatile to say the least. Shaq and Kobe had been openly battling all year, and that's when Kobe was around, which he often wasn't because of his ongoing sexual assault case. On the court, Phil Jackson's superstar-stuffed team fell short in the NBA Finals. And at season's end, Phil's contract was up, Kobe would opt out of his contract and become a free agent, and Shaq had the leverage to push for a trade. All three of them had said nasty things to and about one another. It would have taken a miracle to keep that core together, and there would be no miracle. Days after the finals loss, the Lakers let Phil Jackson go. The Lakers would eventually replace Phil with Rudy Tomjanovich, another legendary championship-winning coach who had taken a year away from the NBA while recovering from bladder cancer. Rudy was really the only contender for the job after Duke's Mike Krzyzewski said no. Meanwhile, just days after Jackson's departure, Shaq did indeed demand a trade. It wasn't clear at that point whether Kobe would stick in LA, but Shaq believed, legitimately, that the organization favored his younger teammate and was fed up. Immediately, the Lakers were fielding calls from most of the league's teams, but they focused on potential trade partners with whom Shaq might actually sign a contract extension. Shaq and Orlando's Tracy McGrady were both angling to become Dallas Mavericks, but the Mavs wouldn't make Dirk Nowitzki available in a trade, maybe not even Steve Nash. The same went for the Pacers and their best player, Jermaine O'Neal. The Nets were pursuing the New Jersey native, but couldn't get it done with packages centered around Kenyon Martin and Kerry Kittles. A return to the Magic would have made Shaq happy, but after dealing T-Mac to the Rockets, Orlando wasn't going to make it happen. The Venn diagram of teams Shaq would accept and teams that could actually produce a decent return for the Lakers narrowed to one, the Miami Heat. And in mid-July, they finally got it done. The Lakers got promising youngsters Lamar Odom and Caron Butler, veteran big man Brian Grant, and a draft pick. The Heat got Shaq. Around the same time, Kobe had been holding free agency meetings with teams like the Bulls, Knicks, and Nuggets, and most notably, the Clippers, a team in the very same building. But really, Kobe was just waiting to make sure Shaq left town. A day after the O'Neal trade became official, and still in the middle of his legal proceedings, Kobe re-signed in LA for 7 years and over $136 million. By the way, we're not guessing at what these people were thinking and feeling about each other before the Lakers fell apart. We've heard it directly from Phil Jackson, who released a book called The Last Season 2 months before this game. That guy writes fast. This tell-all book made Kobe in particular look bad and injected some extra hype into this matchup today. It was hype that Shaq couldn't help but stoke when asked what would happen if Kobe drove the lane against him. He compared that to a Corvette hitting a brick wall. But Shaq mostly downplayed the hysteria, expressing contentment with his new situation in Miami and his new co-star, second-year guard Dwayne Wade. His old co-star sounded more apologetic than anything. And I think this Kobe-Shaq battle has lived up to any reasonable expectation, considering they don't play the same position. The two exchanged a totally ordinary handshake before tip-off. Shaq swatted Kobe's very first shot attempt, then Kobe hit a gorgeous fadeaway over him the next time down. And if you're wondering why Shaq's not on the floor right now, it's because a few minutes ago the Corvette did indeed hit the brick wall, and that was the brick wall's 6th foul. Shaq fouled out. But let's talk about who is on the floor, because this is kind of a ragtag bunch. Start with Miami. Here's Wade, who is already playing like an all-star in his sophomore season, and who, despite a leg injury, has had a thrilling battle with Kobe this evening, producing quite a bit, and missing quite a bit too, to keep pace with his opponent. Wade has even directly confronted him a few times. It's been awesome to watch, although it could have been even sweeter if Wade got his game winner to fall at the end of regulation. By Wade's side, helping him on Kobe, is Eddie Jones, an interesting bridge between these two guys. At the time the Lakers traded for Kobe on draft night '96, Jones was their best scoring guard. Jones was Kobe's mentor for years and eventually got traded as the blossoming youngster took over his role. Jones has been in Miami since 2000 and led the Heat in scoring for a couple years, but there's a new kid in town. Jones has ceded the shooting guard position and a whole lot of touches to the younger Wade. And now Shaq's here too. This must all feel very familiar to Eddie Jones. But the rest of these guys aren't quite so familiar. Trading 3 starters for the highest paid player in the NBA meant the Heat had to do some creative backfilling to field a decent team. Here's Udonis Haslem. In 2002, he was undrafted, overweight, and playing for a mediocre French team. 2 years and 1 breakout training camp later, he's Miami's regular starting power forward. And he's finished some gorgeous connections with Wade here today. Damon Jones went undrafted out of Houston in 1997, then became a journeyman, first in obscure leagues and then with a different NBA team every year. But this season, his first in Miami, Jones has grabbed the starting point guard spot and has busted out as one of the league's deadliest shooters. He hit a huge 3 to help keep this game close at the end of regulation. This guy's a little different. This is Christian Laettner. Yes, that Christian Laettner. The despised Duke legend and former All-Star who is now 35 years old and taking one last spin before he hangs it up for good. On a shallow Heat roster, he is one of the best bench players, and he hit a pretty neat runner to beat the halftime buzzer. But he's only on the floor right now because Shaq fouled out. Hi, Christian. With this lopsided combination of undrafted achievers, star guards young and old, and Shaq, the Heat have formed something special. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference right now, which is a big step up from last year and has a lot to do with this man. Days before the 03-04 season began, longtime Miami coach/president Pat Riley abruptly resigned as coach and promoted veteran assistant Stan Van Gundy to take his place. Van Gundy led what had been a losing squad into the playoffs and even won a series thanks in part to the heroics of the rookie Wade. After the Heat fell to the Pacers in the second round, Riley did Van Gundy another solid, gifting him the largest and most dominant force of his generation. After losing 3 rotation players for 1 Shaq, the mustache man has wasted no time building a world-class offense and defense. In fact, since Van Gundy made Damon Jones his regular starting point guard, Miami has won 10 straight games. This team can reasonably be expected to battle the Pistons for the Eastern Conference title, and honestly, anything less might make Riley a little antsy. But for now, the Heat are hanging on for dear life in a regular season game against the Lakers. And that's not as noble a situation as it used to be. Take a look at who Coach Tomjanovich has on the floor with Kobe. Here's Odom, who's having a nice first season as Kobe's Swiss Army knife sidekick, and who's been excellent today, right up through the huge three-pointer that kept LA in this game in OT. Caron Butler's not here because he got suspended for punching Dan Dickau a few days ago. Second-year big man Brian Cook is on the floor for his shooting. It was either him or Chris Mim. These other 2 guys are Chucky Atkins and Jermaine Jones. They averaged 10 points a game combined last season, and yet here they are closing a game for a recent champion. The explosion of the Phil, Kobe, Shaq triumvirate wasn't the only important thing to happen to the Lakers this summer. The 04 Lakers were a ridiculous superstar megazord, and these 2 losses were pretty important too. The Lakers wanted to re-sign Karl Malone. He was still effective in his 40s, but after injuries plagued his season and limited him in the finals, Malone opted out of his contract, and he's probably going to retire. Gary Payton had been LA's starting point guard, but got lit up by Finals MVP Chauncey Billups. So the Lakers traded him and longtime glue guy Rick Fox to the Celtics for this tasty little platter of younger, worse players who've been pushed into big minutes all season long, including today. All of this is to say the Lakers belong almost entirely to Kobe now. Odom, Butler, and Grant can't replace the guys who departed, and the rest of these dorks certainly don't make up the difference. This is, for the first time in his career, unequivocally Kobe's team. So how's that going? Kobe has been struggling to find himself in a post-Shaq environment. He's had nights of heaving over 30 shots and nights of dishing out over 10 assists. He's under 40% from the field on the season and just 31% from downtown so far. No matter what he's done, the Lakers have stayed merely okay. A franchise that hasn't missed the playoffs in a decade sits at 14-11, outside the playoff picture in a loaded Western Conference. Part of that is because Kobe hasn't delivered in the clutch, not so far this year. He's taken about a half dozen shots to win or tie games in the final minute, and he's missed all of them, including a couple late jumpers against the conference-leading Suns earlier this month. Tonight's been a mixed bag. Kobe has 42 points on 29 shots, some of them very difficult. He's handed out 6 assists and committed 9 ugly turnovers. Instead of breaking the tie himself in the final minute of regulation, he passed out of a double team too late for Chucky Atkins to beat the shot clock buzzer. So now he's going to take this game winner himself, there is no doubt. And what will this shot do? In the course of history, nothing important. But that's never what it's been about in the half-century history of Christmas NBA games. Christmas basketball is about narratives, about sending messages. With a make, Kobe could say, even just for today, that he doesn't need Shaq, doesn't need Phil to win, that the Lakers were right to favor him as the face of the franchise's new era. A miss? Well, that'll provide momentary affirmation that Shaq made the right move, that he got out at the right time, and that he's an individual dominant enough to make a team great. Though we shouldn't forget the coach, the brilliant youngster and his mentor, and the wandering oddballs who have helped turn this team into a sudden contender. Whatever happens, it'll end one of the most hyped Christmas games ever, and the rare one that's lived up to its billing. Okay, welcome to a moment in Christmas history.
Bryant gets doubles. Kobe Bryant.
Thanks for watching Rewinder. If you want to learn more about that other big event in '04, check out our Mouse at the Palace episode right here, or check out any of our other episodes of Rewinder over here.